What are you doing up at this hour of the night?
What are you doing up at this hour of the night?
Prevention of crime. Every hour of the day and night.
Moviebreak
is the team that protects your property and you.
Hello again, friends, followers, and first-time listeners of Moviebreak. Welcome to another interview special, which is something to cheer about in those rather depressing times we're living in. So don't look so sad. That will only get you wrinkles, or as they are called in the movie, the director of which I'm going to interview in a few seconds, A Triangle of Sadness. The movie won the Palme d'Or, the main competition prize at this year's Cannes Film Festival, where we have seen it. It's a mix of social satire and class clash comedy from the mind of Ruben Östlund, who also did movies such as The Square and Play. The interview slot is gonna be shared by a non-Moviebreak colleague from radio, just in case you're wondering. His name is Alex, I'm Lida Noir, and of course the man for whom you're here, Ruben Östlund.
Do people see it as me?
Me?
It's me? I mean, it sounds like you have had a lot of fun with that sometimes.
Sure, but I have to remind people it's fiction. This is fictional characters. It's not real human beings. And then you're allowed to be as mean as you want to be. And I'm equally mean also. I'm mean to everyone. I'm not less mean to someone special or any specific groups. So
you're not taking sides?
I mean that I take side for all the characters of the film, because what I'm not taking side on is this completely absurd focus on the individual that we have in our times, where we constantly are trying to look for the answer on people's actions from an individual perspective. I want to look for the answer in people's actions from the context, from the materialistic setup that they are dealing with. I think that we live in a time where even news reporting have become completely, affected by the American Anglo-Saxon storytelling way of having a good guy and a bad guy. And I am very, very interested in sociology, and sociology is a beautiful topic because it dares to look at human being when we fail without putting guilt on the individual, rather trying to understand something about the context.
You said that you make fun of everyone equally, which you also said about your previous movies when questioned in similar contexts. But that is not quite how I see it. For example, you make a lot of fun about Iris Berben's character, about her handicap, and you also have made fun of handicapped people, for example, in The Square, put them out to ridicule, and no other character is ridiculed in the way that she is constantly throughout the movie.
That I would say is completely your perspective on it. Iris Berben's character is completely based on my mother-in-law that have a handicap, that is aphasia, when she only can say in the Volken. For me, what I was interested in what she's dealing with is how fantastic you can pronounce one sentence in order to pronounce it in different ways to make yourself understood, even if you have this handicap. So I don't agree that I'm making fun of that character at all, actually.
But in a way, let's stay with the side thing in a way, because obviously my heart goes out for the toilet manager. Don't know the name.
Sorry.
The toilet manager. Abigail.
Yeah.
Or in your previous film, the boy or the gangsters or something like that, because. You know what I mean? I mean,
yes.
It seems like it's more. You make fun of them as well, and.
But I mean, when I said make fun of, I think that it was a way of playing with the idea about that there is some specific one that is more mean to whatever. me personally, I don't think that I'm mean to any of the characters. I'm trying to put them in a context, in a situation where we can identify with their behavior. So my goal is in the end of the film that we can identify with Abigail that is in a dilemma. And either drop the stone to the ground and lose her position, or try to fight for her position. So I have never had the intention of, for example, portraying the rich evil capitalist that's in the top, or the nice generous person that is on the bottom, because I think it's a wrong way of describing people, how people are. Because as soon as you get next to another person, you will only see another human being that have the possibilities for the same kind of generous or mean actions as any other human being. So I think there's a lot of things that is connected to that in the way I'm portraying class, etc. in the films that is provoking people.
Mm.
But Abigail is an interesting personification of a threatening lower class figure, which also interestingly reoccurs in several of your films. We have lower class characters being aggressive in play. We have also an aggressive lower class character in The Square. So now we have again those aggressive lower characters who actually end up oppressing the upper class characters. So does that mirror your social view that underclass would just be as ruthless as upper class if they could?
I would say that the abuse of power comes as no surprise, as a very intelligent artist have said. But it doesn't mean that it reflects on how I look at on the world. I mean, I think that we, as I said before, depending on which position we have and which context our actions is coming from, we have the possibilities of many different actions. And I'm interested in when we fail, and when we fail morally and ethically. And you can see basically, like the main characters, they are dealing with a failure, all of them. And I don't want it to be connected that their behavior is dependent on individual differences. So that's why I think that the way that you are looking for a certain kind of way of describing the lower class that I don't agree on. I think that actually the risk of being criminal is probably higher if you are coming from a poor background with less money. But we are so in love, and I think this is a middle-class perspective of things. We are so in love of describing our perspective that we look down with a nice way to the lower class, and we look up with a little bit of an underdog perspective of the rich people. This is for me to forget about Marx.
Would you, because as we are talking about social studies in a way, is a film that you're making in a way always like a film social study? Do you have, or is this? It's totally pre-planned, or is it something that evolves, like experimental as well? I mean, you find that recurring theme.
But I can only tell you how I start a topic. Like, for example, this film started with that I met my wife 8 years ago, and she works as a fashion photographer, and I get interested in the fashion industry and the fact that beauty can become a currency, that beauty can actually help you climb in class society. And I was astonished that I don't really have seen anything about that. The idea of the film also developed during the Me Too movement. And I thought it was interesting that there was a lack of a discussion about power and currencies when it came to a part of the Me Too movement, which in general I think was a great movement. So when I know that I want to deal with this kind of thematics like beauty as a currency, then I start to collect ideas. I start to find a structure, and I found a structure quite early that I would start in the fashion world, go to luxury world, and then take away all hierarchies, and we should end up on a deserted island. Then I'm starting to collect ideas to these three parts of the world. And sometimes they are coming from sociological approach, but sometimes they come from something very personal. Like the bill scene is something that I experienced with my wife when we met completely myself. It's a very private scene for me, but I feel it's dealing with a topic that I'm focusing on in the film. So it's from very different places.
Which scene was it?
The bill scene when it comes to paying the bill.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't quite get it. But this is like, and I loved it. I saw the yachting docu soap on Netflix. I don't know if you know it.
Below Deck have someone. Someone told me about it, but I have not seen it yet. Yeah.
I really loved it.
Yeah.
Because in a way it's the same.
Yeah.
Somehow. And
But I mean, on the yachts, I got interested in the kind of structures that is there. Of course, that like of course you have like the Filipino people that are working in the sea. They are like so underpaid and have much less salary than the other parts of the yacht. And then you have the Western crew that is working with service. That is white people from Europe or maybe North America also. That can have like a tip on these trips that is 125,000 euros was the tip on the yacht where we were shooting. The week before, they had a tip on 125,000 euros. So it was basically like a class society in itself.
Mm.
The character ending up using most beauty as their currency is actually Carl, which is more unusual because usually it's women using beauty as a currency. And while we have that in the movie, the one who is physically exploited even in the end is Carl, the young, beautiful male model. And you explicitly refer to that kind of society that comes to be on the island as a matriarchy. And in the very beginning of the film, we have also a scene where a flamboyantly acting newscaster who is implicitly gay, we don't know if he's gay, but he acts in a way that could be characterized as a homophobic caricature and ogles all the beautiful male models and also Carl. So would you say that women's lib or like queer liberation is kind of like a threat to men in this society?
Not at all. But I think that what I have been interested in attacking a little bit is this identity politics when you take away class as an aspect of trying to understand the world. And I feel that this is very connected to the liberal capitalism, that we want to make us believe that we are in charge of our own life, in control of our own life. Our actions as consumers, for example, is very important how the future looks like. I think like consumer power is bullshit idea that is connected with this liberal capitalism that is also creating the kind of idea that if women are in top of the power, the abuse of power would not happen. I don't believe in that. That the power structure in itself is creating a certain kind of behavior rather than the individual differences from us. So, and if you look at it's kind of interesting because I know that Germany have had a history of matriarchy. I don't know how long ago. And it seemed that it was horrible. It was like that the matriarch was...
History of matriarchy?
Yes.
When?
I have social friends in Berlin that we have had a discussion. I can't tell you more, but you should check up on it if I'm not totally wrong. But that it turned out that it was like the matriarch was really oppressing the sisters, and it was not an ideal society.
Never heard about that.
You have to check it out.
Okay.
I have had discussions many times with them. So.
But this theme is also recurring in your movies, that you present women who actually desire patriarchal structures to feel safe, to feel secure, also on a financial level, while it's actually the men who are being more leaning towards a liberal equality or society. Do you think that it's true that men actually favor equality and it's women who always just want a strong partner in the end, even if they don't say so?
When it comes to Carl and Yaya, it is in that way. When it comes to Yaya, she's kind of comfortable to be the woman and be the trophy wife, and she actually looks at her value and her beauty in a way that she's going to exploit it. And Carl is, I don't know if he's naive, but he's like, what about love? He wants to be in love. He wants to have a relationship that is equal. So what I thought was interesting is, of course, to have this approach of the characters in the beginning. And when you end up on the island, Carl is the one that is starting to become the trophy wife. So I was more interested in flipping these, the motivation of the characters. But I think it is, even if you are, how to say, in a position that is That's interesting with power position, because I don't think the power position, the thing that you enjoy about the power position is that you can, oppress people. It's actually that you can say, yes, I pardon you, I give to you. And the thing of being not in a power position, there's also something that is enjoyable about that. There are certain kind of roles that when it comes to, for example, the typical patriarchal society where the woman have a certain area that she can play out her role of being the woman. I'm not sure that it's so much more enjoyable to be a man or a woman in a kind of society where you have this imbalance. I believe more that, like what Carl is saying, that equality is creating happiness for a couple.
So in a way, this film wants to be, because I'm getting this from the discussion, wants to be a metaphor for all of our society?
Yes, I mean, I think that one of the things with human beings is that we are dealing with power structures and hierarchies all the time. And I think that the reason that we are such a, successful species is because we are obsessed with equality. We actually want to create equality. I think it's in part of our species. I don't think that human being is specifically egoistic. I think then we wouldn't be so successful as well. We actually are a kind of making sure that people are treated in an equal way. I try to find topics that I find universal, of course.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting in a way because,
To properly present those working class characters, especially the Asian women on the boat, how much contact and research and experience actually did you have with this kind of people, with workers with a migration background? That would be interesting for me to develop those characters.
Well, I did research. What I did when I did the film was not like to specifically investigate working class, but I was looking at the yachts and the cruise and that kind of industry, and looking at how the demography of the people working on a yacht looked like. And I did, mostly when I did research, I did interviews with the stewardess, the people working with service. But for my aspect of what I got interested in the film was that one person that came from the yacht that should have been anonymous should take the main part when we get to the island. So the aspect that they were lowest paid was basically the most important aspect for me on the yacht.
Was this when did you came up with the idea of doing it on a yacht? Doing it on a yacht. Was it that moment you had an island?
No,
how to get there?
No, it actually was not. It was. I could see in this Instagram culture, and when it came to the models and so on, that it actually could be a ticket. The beauty could be a ticket to have access to this yacht world. And I wanted the beauty to take them even to the top of the crème de la crème of the economical elite of our society. And the yacht is kind of a symbol for that for me in some ways. And then the idea came actually that the yacht should go under and they should end up on a deserted island. But this is very early in the process.
Mm-hmm. I was asking myself, it's not, obviously I can't tell the end, but just personally, did you change the end because of the death of your main actress?
No.
Because I was like, if you would have killed, got the stone, and then I would say, oh, okay, that's not good anymore.
No, I mean the film have always ended in the dilemma, and I was not so specifically interested in the violence, and I'm not so interested if Abigail kills her or if she drops the stone. I want the audience to identify with the dilemma, but with all the respect for Shalby and a lot of the work that I've been doing now is try to pay tribute to Shalby's contribution to the film and her legacy. the film is something else than her death.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just imagined like.
No, but I understand. I understand.
You know what I mean.
I understand your idea.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah.
Your movie was showing in Cannes and it was winning the main prize. And as interesting as it was to watch your movie there, it was also interesting to watch the audience watch it and react on it. And especially with this huge dinner scene that then goes awry in a very gross way. I think we can agree on that. The audience was roaring. It was enjoying that scene. And the interesting thing is that the audience, at least at Cannes, is very privileged. They're not all exclusively, but majority are well paid. They're middle or upper class. Do you think there might be a certain failure in the audience to identify with those figures who are mocked in the movie if they are not lower class? Because there seems to be a huge distance between the audience and those figures on the screen. They were definitely not seeing themselves in them. They were pointing their finger at somebody else, as I perceived it at least.
I can only talk to myself when I'm writing and doing the films. Then I always are interested in situations that corners myself. So I don't aim to corner someone else basically than my own class. Of course, I also, how do you say, when it comes to Abigail, I identify with her getting up on a position. So I still think that I'm cornering myself as a human being. I don't see her as like a working class and I'm looking at someone else. But when it comes to Cannes, I think Cannes is basically the best place to have a screening of these films. And sometimes I hear the criticism, you are biting the hand that feeds you, or you're criticizing the class that you belong to yourself. For me, it's a completely absurd way of looking at things because I don't know what I should do in order to look self-critical on me. And then if you say that the audience is not relating to it, I don't think you're 100% right. I was pitching the film quite many times for billionaires in the US because we were looking for financing. And I tell them that, okay, these billionaires are in this yacht and we have this speech when the captain is saying, stop bullshitting and pay taxes, stop this philanthropy bullshit. Exactly the things that some of them were dealing with. But when we are exposing things about ourselves, just like the closest parallel is like to stand-up comedy. We basically laugh about when we laugh about ourselves. I don't think that we laugh about others. I don't have that experience that we laugh about others.
But isn't that also, I mean, I'm not quite sure what we talked about then when we talked about the square, but we talked about the scene as well. And somehow I can remember, I don't know if it's correct, obviously, it's just my memory and too many interviews as well.
Yeah.
But that there's a part of you that had your fun with that.
Yeah.
And obviously the same dynamic as in one of the first scenes in this film when you have the people move to another scene and then the next scene is everyone's is equal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, which is emotive.
Yeah, sure. No.
I mean, you don't get it. I mean, nobody gets it. Everyone, in a way, everyone.
But I think that what we can identify is also that we are completely locked into the world where we're supposed to take actions in. And for example, if someone says to you, if you don't like Facebook, don't use Facebook. Well, all of my friends are on Facebook, so I basically have to use Facebook. Or the greatest arena to present your film is Cannes, because that's where you get maximum attention. If you believe that the content is important, you will go for looking for maximum attention. So it's almost like this. There's a word that I don't like that is hypocrite or hypocritical. I think that the way of using that word is putting the blame on the individual instead of looking at the context. We can't participate in this world without being in the world. And that makes a certain kind of rhetorics not so interesting to use, I think.
Yeah, I would, in fact, absolutely agree, because that's one of the biggest faults that you do make the consumer, the people responsible for the for
climate change,
for recycling, or what I just learned, like the carbon footprint, which was invented by British petrol.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So, but obviously there's like that you some people sometimes, and that's their own decision, don't see what they are or what they're doing.
But I don't think it's
just reflective.
Sure, but I don't. What should you do? Should you change your lifestyle? Or what? If you're a billionaire, what should you do? Give away all your money? I'm sorry, but if we don't have a common agreement on how to deal with things, and if we don't manage to organize ourselves, we are not going to be able to even use the power that we eventually have. So I think that it's when we talk about like responsibility that I was interested in the square, I think that one of the how to say things in our time that I get mostly provoked of is that we have such a problem of realizing which responsibility do we have on a society level and which responsibility do we have on an individual level. And very much of the part of the responsibility we put on the individual level actually is something that we have to deal with a common contract, with the idea about how we create a state and so on. And I think we're living in a time where we're bringing up the next generation to be completely absurdly individualists. And they will not be able to solve any of the bigger topics.
Let's make a film about the filmmaker.
Sure, if you find the right...
if you do it.
Sure. But I mean, I would love to do that, but you have to find the reason that you're using the film word to approach a content. But I was thinking maybe to actually do it from the viewpoint of the publicists, now when you are here. Because that could be interesting.
Yeah, the absurdity is sometimes quite obvious. But even too much sometimes. I mean...
Sure, but then if you through the publicist, you also can criticize media. Yeah.
Good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Now, I would like to ask, actually, if it's still okay, why you think that your movies capture the taste of our new conservative times so well?
Why I think that?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I'm not thought about it in that way. What I have tried to do is to try to put in the actions of the characters in a materialistic setup in order to make it understand. That have been my aim. But then I think during the fashion show, I think there's a sentence that says a lot about our times. That is cynicism masqueraded as optimism, which is for me a certain kind of attitude that I see in the world so much today, and that we actually allow it. We allow this greenwashing, this whitewashing, and we allow the idea about that these big fashion brands and so on actually have a purpose that is good, and we think that they should pose with this question instead of like, come on, you want to sell products, period.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ruben Östlund. As you've probably realized, time's run out, as it is always. But you can see Triangle of Sadness in German cinemas from the 13th of October, and of course read our review here at Moviebreak. Thanks for tuning in, and hope you're there again next time.